right, we're out here today in Godley, Texas, and we're looking at the pros and cons of moving to Godley, Texas. If this is your first time to the channel, we really appreciate you tuning in to today's episode. Be sure to click that subscribe button and push the bell for notifications so you'll be the first to know about any changes or updates here in the Godley market area. As always, we get people that are reaching out to us. Maybe they're 6 months, maybe they're a year out. They're looking for some homes on acreage. They're looking for good school zones, and they're thinking about the relocations. Maybe they have a job relocation coming up. Give us a call, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you, and maybe we can help give you some advice to help make that move a little easier when the time comes. So today we're jumping into Godley, Texas, and people that are looking at Godley, they're thinking about a home on some acreage. They're thinking about being in an area that has really good schools, good sporting opportunities, and so I think there's a number of areas, Cody, that would make sense for them to consider. We did a Brock video here recently.
Yeah.
You have other areas that
Joshua
people.
down the road.
Yep, you got Joshua.
Cleburne.
Alito, you got these areas that are outside of the city that are not Fort Worth, that have opportunities to buy a home on some acreage. Godley being one of those. I think a lot of people are probably trying to compare and decide where do they want to go. What would be the pros of moving to Godley as opposed to Brock?
Right.
So let's go over a few of the pros. So the first pro for Godley, probably location, proximity to Fort Worth. It's right down from Chisholm Trail, 30 minutes to Fort Worth, and about, I think, 53 minutes to the airport. So that's one pro, I would say. What's another pro?
Well, I mean, the thing about Godley and a lot of these communities that are outside of Fort Worth is that your money goes farther than spending, if you're looking for an acre on in a house in Fort Worth, you're going to be, the entry point's going to be much higher than out here in Godley.
Yeah. Also, you have some nice entry points too. Like we were in Brock the other day. There wasn't anything really under 400,000 that we could find. There are multiple homes that are brand new between 250 and 300 here in Godley. So if you're looking for a starter home, you're looking for, you're a younger family looking for, the first home, that's, you have good options out here.
Your money's going to go a lot further here in Godley than in Alito or Brock, for sure.
Yep, especially at that price point. Now, if you get up into like the 550, 600, at that price, you could find something in Brock or you could find something in Godley, and you would just depend on what area you're really wanting. Godley is going to give you access to Chisholm Trail, quicker access to Fort Worth. Brock's going to give you quicker access to Weatherford, and depending on what your situation is as to which one would make more sense.
Right.
The tax rate is one of the cons for Godley.
Absolutely.
So compared to Granbury, and I'll use Granbury as a comparison, we're 1.7 outside of city limits, 2.2, 2.3 actually inside of city limits in Godley.
In Godley.
Yep. Granbury 1.2 outside, 1.6 inside.
Right.
So 1.7 and 2.3 versus 1.2, 1.6. You're probably talking about, $4,000 more a year in property taxes here as opposed to Granbury, which is going to translate to probably $300-400 a month on property taxes.
Right. Because the Godley ISD taxes are 1.2 by themselves.
Yeah.
So you're basically paying for the new stadium that they just built here in Godley, which could be a pro or a con depending on what you're going after. If you're retired and you don't have kids going into the school district, or maybe you're a homeschool family, you're not really looking for those bells and whistles of a new football stadium.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, especially so it depends on what your situation is. Do you want to pay those extra fees? A lot of people will leave Alito when their kids graduate school and move somewhere with lower taxes.
Right.
So I guess it just depends on where you're at in life, what stage you're in. That stadium is nice. It really is. So we'll have some drone footage of that. So it is a nice pro, especially if your child is in school, plays sports. It's definitely something to consider.
Friday Night Lights, that's quintessential small town Texas, right?
Yep.
So
So another con would be Godley's not going to have a huge job market. so you're going to have to travel to Fort Worth or Granbury for work more than likely. You have quick access to Burleson or Joshua as well. So you have nice access points from really, regardless of where you're going, it's pretty quick access. But a 30-minute drive to Fort Worth and from Fort Worth every day, it's an hour, hour a day, 5 hours a week, 20 hours a month that you're going to spend extra time traveling as opposed to, so that's something that adds up.
If you work remote and you're looking for that 600,000 range, Brock would probably be more your speed than Godley.
Yep. And there's certainly opportunities on both sides. There might be reasons for you to live here. Maybe you work remote, but you have to go into the office maybe once or twice a week, and that office is in Arlington. Well, you might make sense, Godley over Brock at that stage.
Right.
So you could look at Toller, which is going to take you further away from Fort Worth. There's some nice areas out there that are remote. Or you go even out to Joshua, which has some pretty remote rural areas, and you could travel up through 67. So there's lots of pros to living here in Godley. Main cons are the fact you're going to have to leave out for work. You're going to have a slightly higher tax rate in some of the smaller cities because of the schools. I think in general there's not going to be a lot of stuff to do. There's not a lot of restaurants. There's not a lot of things you can do for entertainment here in Godley. You're going to have to travel around in order to go to those places. So
right. There's Porter's Grill, which you highlighted.
Yep.
In Del Norte.
Yep.
They have live music on the weekends, I think.
Yep.
Things
there's
like
stuff.
that.
There is stuff. It's not like there's nothing to do. But if you're coming from Fort Worth, it's going to be a bit of a culture shock. There's not near as much to do comparatively. All right, so we're going to go look at some homes in 250 to 300. We're going to look at one in between 4 and 5, and we're going to look at one at about 600,000. So we're going to look at 3 kind of different price points. You can kind of see a visual of what your money will get you here in Godley, and then we'll wrap everything up. So stay tuned. We're headed there right now.
One of the subdivisions that we want to highlight for you guys as we take our tour of Godley is the Godley Ranch subdivision. Now, the Godley Ranch subdivision is going to be a little bit more accessible, especially to first-time home buyers. And this is what we were talking about earlier when we were saying that compared to Brock, Godley offers some lower prices, which would allow some first-time home buyers to be able to gain entry into a nice home in Godley. And the home that I'm at right now is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,900 square foot home that's being offered at about $300,000. I can flip the camera around for you, show you the home. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller lot, but you would expect that with the price point in this range. And I can show you over here, we got some new development coming on. I believe this neighborhood has History Maker and Bloomfield that they're offering for home builders. So as I said, this is a good neighborhood for those of you who are looking to be in the 250 to 350 range.
All right, we're out here in Godley, Texas today, and if you know me, you know when I travel and hit the highlights of a city, I always like to stop at a good place to eat. So I want to recommend 2 places to you in Godley, Texas. So there's Del Norte's Taco, and there's Porter's Grill. Porter's Grill, I ate there today. We got a nice cheeseburger, some cheese fries, cheese sticks, fried pickles. I mean, it was really good. So Cody and I had a nice lunch here while we're out shooting this video. So what is it like to live in Godley, Texas 2025? Well, if you come here, I highly recommend you try out Porter's. It's a nice restaurant and definitely worth the time. All right, we're at our second property for $470,000. It's in a neighborhood called Rustic Meadows. We're looking at a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, built in 2021. It sits on about an acre, and it is right here in front of me, $470,000. As I said, it's built in 2021, 4-bed, 2-bath, $470,000, situated on an acre in a little subdivision called Rustic Meadows. Nice fenced backyard, nice curb appeal. This neighborhood allows shops. As you drive through it, you'll see a lot of those. So great community. This is sort of what you would get at that 450 to 500 range in Godley, Texas. It's 2229 heated square foot. So 2,200 square foot, 450 to 500,000, built after 2020. That's what's a good expectation for what you can get here in Godley. And yeah, so if this is a price point that you're in, this is a great consideration. There's multiple neighborhoods that we could show you, probably 5 to 10, At this price point, there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of supply from builders and subdivisions that have been developing here. So yeah, if you want something like this, if this kind of tickles your fancy, if it's something that you think you might like, let us know. We can set you up some searches for Godley and notify you when anything like this comes up for sale and help get you the perfect home. All right, we're wrapping things up with our look at the pros and cons of living in Godley, Texas. Before we jump into the Google Map evaluation, which we're gonna do, and look at the school and look at the location and give you an aerial view, I wanna show you a little bit of drone footage of the school. We mentioned, and I'm gonna share my screen for this, we mentioned that the property taxes were a little higher in Godley, and a part of the reason was because they have built an exceptional school and a football stadium, baseball field. I mean, it's very nice. So I must say they've done a good job with that, and this should help bolster the property values and continue to bring people in going into the future. So when I move over to Godley on the map view, you're going to see one of the reasons why. But nice school, nice stadium. This is on one of the main roads here in Godley, and yeah, just wanted you to see it. It's a nice area. So looking at the map, where is Godley, Texas located? All right, so if I look, Fort Worth is going to be a major city that's going to be up to the northeast. And Granbury, as you can see, is going to be to the southwest. Godley is this little area right here in between. So Granbury, Fort Worth, Cleburne, Weatherford. It's kind of in the middle. I wouldn't say, exactly in the middle, but it's in the middle of all of those. Why is Godley such a hot prospect for future development? Well, Chisholm Trail runs down here, and it gives people very quick access into Godley. 377 that runs down here. They have this little overpass, as you can see, that they've built, but you can essentially turn down this way as well. You have very quick access to Weatherford, quick access to Granbury, quick access to Cleburne, to Joshua, to Burleson, or to Fort Worth. It is, from that standpoint, an exceptional connector of all of these cities. And as such, it's gonna be a good opportunity to get in early as this city is gonna grow. Joshua, Burleson have already gone through some pretty explosive growth. Godley is, I'd say, next up on the docket. And if this is your first time to watch this, a lot of times I will notate that all of this green here is where a lot of this growth is about to happen. So we're gonna see all of this green start to fill in. So all of this area here is prime for growth, big time. And it goes up here as well. So Godley is, because of the road systems, I would say probably Godley or Crescent is probably next on what I would say the explosion of growth from Fort Worth is. Granbury is growing leaps and bounds, and it is moving in this direction, and Fort Worth is moving in this direction. So the two together are going to continue to grow, and Godley is going to be one of the beneficiaries of that. Godley has much better access to the Metroplex than Granbury. You're going to have, you're going to save a ton of time just being able to hit Chisholm Trail and go straight up into Fort Worth, as opposed to many of the neighborhoods in Granbury. All right, so with that, we ate at a restaurant called Porter's Grill, which was on Highway 171. Highway 171, which is also where the school was located. It was on the same highway. 171 is going to be the street that will connect Crescent to Cleburne, and obviously have Godley there in the center. If you are coming from, let me pull this up. If you live in, say, Pecan Plantation like I do, how would you get to Godley? Well, glad you asked. What you would do is you would go out the front gate, and you would travel down, and you would actually take a right on Cleburne Highway right here. Or you could go down Cleburne Highway and get over to Godley that way. Or you could actually go, this is a way that a lot of people actually don't know about. You can actually go down this road and go that way, which is Massey Road. And Massey Road, you know, it has a back road that can take you to Rolling Creek Ranch, or it can run you over to Godley, or it's also a quick way to get to Cleburne. So a lot of times I'll go that direction to get to Cleburne, because I could go, you know, you could run up 67 to Cleburne, which is one way that you could actually get around to Godley, but that's kind of a long route around. All right, so we looked at some properties around the Godley area. There's not a ton of them, but those neighborhoods are growing, and a lot of new construction opportunities are there. As we said, there's a better, compared to Brock, this has a lot more potential for starter homes, $300,000 homes, whereas Brock really doesn't have that. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely recommend checking out Godley. While we're here, I want to show you a couple of things, some properties that are actually available in Godley, Texas. So I did a search for built in 2024 or after, and 350 or 300 to 450. So we wanted to see, this would be starter potential homes, and there are 36 available. These are all new construction homes, so you see a huge potential for this price point. I could back this up, and we could say if you wanted something that was 500 to 700 and on at least an acre, and we can back this up to maybe 2023 build. We have 14, so you see there's 36 in the lower brackets. There's 14 here in these price points. And then we could even go up from there. We can say we want something that's on 2+ acres and maybe between 700 to 1 million. And then you see 2 properties here. And this is a really nice community, Lanzera. Okay, all right. So 36 in the kind of the 300 to 450. There were 14 in the 5 to 700, and then there were 2 in the 700 to 1 million. So that kind of gives you a quick snapshot of some properties here in the Godley, Texas area. So I think that really wraps us up. I hope you enjoyed this tour around a quickly growing city. And if there's any questions, if you want more information, let us know. Reach out to us. We'd love to help out. And if we don't hear from you, hopefully we'll see you around Godley sometime.